I lost over 60 pounds, and I'm going to talk about a couple of things I've learned along the way, and hopefully it can help others with their journey. And even though I've lost over 60, I'm still not done. I still have more work to do, and that way I can get even better than where I've been in many, many years. I'm out here on a hiking trail. It's an absolutely beautiful morning. I figured this is a nice environment to talk about this with. So I've started my journey on election day, and I do have experience working out, but it's been many years since I was in really a more desirable shape. So going in this for about 8.5 months, there's quite a bit of things I've learned, and one of them was as soon as my body started getting into a motion, working out, being familiar with that, having experience with that before, the first 10 pounds were the easiest to lose. I would say that because I have that background of knowing what my body can do, those 10 pounds represent not working out at all. Just being lazy, not making an effort. That's why those 10 pounds were there. And as soon as I started getting going, that's when those 10 pounds went away. So that was a pretty good motivational boost. The second thing that I learned was I had all these cravings for food that was just not good for me, not beneficial. I remember being on the elliptical machine, going at it, just having that feeling, salivating in my mouth over things, and I just couldn't tolerate it. So I remember like the first few nights I just had to go get something that was not good for me. It wasn't anything big or serious, but it was kind of a detriment to the progress I was trying to make. But I would say after about 10 days to 2 weeks in, that feeling completely went away, and I no longer had any interest in that. And pretty soon I didn't really miss these kinds of things anymore. And so the third thing I learned was I really had a change of my food palate. There were things I knew that I was going to have that was more beneficial. There were things I wasn't interested in having anymore. And over time, you might slowly miss things, but you realize that you're better off without them. And suddenly I have no cravings, nothing of interest anymore for things that are what I like to call temptation food. I just don't have it anymore. And it takes a while to get that out of your system, but it feels a whole lot better now. Another issue that's really frustrating is the disproportional body fat loss. Now overall, the fat in my body has significantly decreased. However, there is notices that I still haven't lost fat exactly where I want to be. As a guy, the last place I lose fat is the gut and the hips. I'm sorry, I can't give you any better news than that. It is the last place. So when you're working out and you're getting going and you have yourself a good consistency, you'll notice you are losing fat. And let's say you're losing 10% of fat over a month. But it's not equal 10% body fat of the whole body. You're losing 10% in maybe one place or two places, but it will not be the entire body. And the truth is that once you've lost most of your fat around your whole body, then the stomach and the hips would start to lose its fat. I know, it is very frustrating, and I'm willing to bet that most of us who are in this journey really want to trim down our stomach. I get it, and the thing is at the very least, I know that I have lost fat around my stomach because I could tell the inches have gone down. It's definitely a lot slimmer, but it's still the largest amount of fat I have in my body. It is a tough thing. That is a really difficult variable. One of the things that kind of helped me was really cutting calories. You have to do intermittent fasting. So it's more to do with that than it has to do with the gym itself, but I wouldn't say you cut back on either of them. The biggest aspect of this is the further along you go, the more you realize just how disciplined you must be. It's about working out, what you're working out that day, what particular machines you need to hit every time, what you're eating, how much you're eating, what time of day you're eating. All these play into factor of how well your progress is going. How well are you accomplishing your goals? Because not only do you need to know that you need to do these things properly, but you have to do it over a course of months, several months. Then you will really start to notice the change in everything. And it's really, really beneficial that you start doing it sooner rather than later. I know when I lost about the first 15 to 20 pounds, I'd say like the 10 to 20 pound loss I've had, that took quite a bit because there was some things I needed to adjust. Sure, I lost 10 pounds pretty easily, but that next 10 pounds, that required me to cut some things out, phase some things out. There was things I thought that were healthy that were not. And then suddenly I ate exactly the same thing every day. And it was right down to about the same portion every day. It's really important that you have to remain consistent, that you have to really know what you're putting in yourself and how much output you're giving, because that will play into the factor of, are you making the progress? It's a lot of work. It really is. This also plays in with sometimes why you're not losing weight and sometimes why you're gaining weight. Part of that can also be because your body is putting on a little bit of muscle. So don't think of that as completely a bad thing, but it will be a sign that you will need to stay as disciplined and focused as possible. You can't just go in there eating whatever, whenever, and just going in there going, well, hopefully my workout can help me with my goals. Because you cannot out-train a bad diet. You cannot out-train really unhealthy ingredients. It really is something that needs to be, you have to look at everything. You have to see what you're putting in yourself. Is it going to be worthy? And another thing that plays along with that is you will look at food as a different perspective. You will no longer just see it as just something that you put in your body. You look at it as fuel. Is this going to be beneficial? And you realize you can't really have fun food anymore. You can't look at it as some kind of activity. It has to be something that's going to be beneficial for your overall goal and probably for the rest of your life. I'm here in America and we have all kinds of weird and bizarre things that are put into our food. So the less ingredients you are, the more likely that's something that you're probably going to want to put in your diet. But the longer I've went along this, the more I no longer had those cravings of foods that were obviously not good for me. And I've gone so long without things that it changed the body and really changed my internal system. For example, I've gone several months without having anything with cheese in it. And then one day, the rare occasion I went out to eat, I had a cheese sandwich. And I felt horrible. I couldn't believe what I was going through. And I thought, it might have been I took too much protein that day or something. And a week later, I had something else with cheese in it. And after that, I felt miserable. I felt like this massive weight in my stomach. Like, oh my word, did I have too much protein? That's what I thought it was. But it was the cheese. If that even was considered good cheese. But something like that, I phased it out of my body, brought it back for a little bit for these two separate appearances, and it was so bad, it felt like that weight in there, it's like I was going to throw my back. Like my body is not used to it. It doesn't know what to do with it. It feels uncomfortable. And that was the motivation that maybe I should never really have this much anymore. And even though I might have like a fun meal every once a blue moon, I thought maybe when I lose all this weight, I will have like a pizza. Not from like one of the big branches, but from a kind of a nicer place. Just that one time, a celebratory kind of thing. And I don't even know if I can do that. So my limiting factors of what I can have for a cheat meal are pretty low. Have really no interest in anything deep fried, nothing with oils in them, and now a pizza. Don't know if that's a possibility anymore. So that is really something along the way, and maybe it's because also I just don't want to have something that's just going to ruin me, even if it is just a cheat meal. Now, our appearance changes overall, but there's some subtle things that we might not even notice. Although people at the gym, for example, that you see over and over again, they will tell you some things you may have not noticed either, but there's even more simple things that I've looked at that have changed over time. Like my hand, like the fingers. I've seen some images where I was kind of looking back at my archives, and I had a picture of like, okay, there's a couple fingers in that picture. And I didn't realize just how much bigger they were than they are now. I had dealing with gout, severe gout, partially why I wasn't able to walk for a good part of a year. I had so much pain in my feet. They were always swollen. But now I've lost all this weight, and my feet, my toes, my hands, fingers, everything, they look so much better. And that's not even something I think about because we're all kind of paying attention to this area. And while this area is going to take the longest to reduce, everything else really changes over time and you might not even notice it. Heck, even the stomach changes, although it doesn't change as fast as I want it to, but it's amazing to see just how much progress. So it is kind of beneficial if you do kind of document yourself over time. This is the first time I've appeared on a video of myself, and I haven't really taken many pictures of myself during this weight loss program, so I might look back at this a couple months from now to see how I compare this video to what I look like in the future. But overall, it's a change of appearance and really subtle things. That explains why I'm not feeling swollen anymore. But the other negative thing is you will have loose skin. So yeah, now the area around here looks pretty big, and in a way it still kind of is, but there's also just a lot of loose skin here. Doesn't have anywhere to go. And that's just the way it's going to be. Now maybe once I complete my weight loss journey and spend the next year trying to tone up the whole body, that might change a little bit, but I don't think anything outside of like that skin removal surgery or that fat loss, whatever it is going to do much. And I don't want to go through that. That might make my appearance better, but I don't want to have that scarring, and say on the off occasion I do get bigger again, I don't know what that's going to look like, but it's not going to be healthy. So I'm going to stay all natural in this, but yeah, having loose skin like this is pretty undesirable. But it's much better than having that skin all filled out and being a whole lot bigger. One sign of motivation that can help is you're probably in a lot better shape than you think you might be. Now I know when I was still feeling like I was much bigger, I was about 10 pounds heavier than I am now, and I went hiking with a friend here. I really enjoy this place. I like to go here at least once a week as long as the weather holds up. So I'm kind of used to this trail. It's not a very long trail, but it's enough to get really deep in nature. I just hear the sounds of them. And there is a couple of steep hills to climb, so that's always nice to have. But I brought a friend along with me once, and he hasn't really had the chance to go hiking very much. He's much thinner than I am. He's pretty skinny, so he doesn't have to worry about fat loss or anything. But really, even though I'm heavier, further out of shape, I have asthma, he was struggling. He could hardly keep up, and he had to stop a couple of times. And I just felt like I wanted to go up the whole way because I didn't want to stop. So you might be in better shape than you think you are, because once you go with someone who hasn't worked out, you'll see how much better you are. Once you go to the gym consistently, you go the same time of day, and you go 4 or 5 times a week, you'll start to run into people that you see very often. And one thing I really like is all the appreciation what people are telling me. They love saying, hey man, you look really great, you made a lot of progress. I appreciate the love. And it's a real communal aspect I don't think we get anywhere else. You know, we might have a job where we perform well and we might get some kind of appraisal for that, but overall, I don't think there's any kind of satisfaction you'll get anywhere else. And really, it's a great place to be in. You're with like-minded people that want to better themselves, and it's really uplifting in such an environment. It's something we really don't get often anymore. So, you know, a really nice gym with a great community to it, it's more beneficial than anything I can imagine. And with that, once I've gone so often with the gym, there were things I used to be afraid of at the gym. I hated the Stairmaster. I hated mountain climbers. Hated certain kind of core workouts that just made me like all anxious and all tensed up because of just how intense they can be. But now, I love them. I love going on the Stairmaster. I love going on that thing. 20 minutes. Go pretty intense. Let's do like 110 a minute. I think it's 110 steps a minute. Oh, that's enjoyable now. Ooh, I can't go my core workouts without mountain climbers, planks, push-ups. I'm getting better as I'm going. These are things I used to be afraid of, and I don't really have that fear anymore because I enjoy it. It's part of it's what I should be doing. And honestly, yeah, I understand when you start off working out, you're going to feel pretty intimidated. You're not in shape. You don't know what you're getting yourself into. You don't know what you're doing, and you'll kind of limit yourself. Generally, I would say that when people start off working out, as the case with me, I did a lot of cardio. I was on the elliptical machine for an hour and maybe did a machine or two, but I really didn't know what I was doing. So after that, then I just left. Now I know everything. I have everything down. I got certain motions. I got certain timings with everything. So that's why it takes a lot of time, and I'm no longer afraid. I feel like I've got everything down I need to. You do something enough times, you will no longer be afraid. You will no longer want to not do that. And you know that there are things in there that benefit you that you may feel like, oh, I don't feel like doing this. Maybe next week, maybe some other time. This thing looks too scary. There's too many people around me. But no, once you get over it, once you start going yourself into it, it's not so bad. Yeah, it might be your heart's racing and you feel achy, but you'll start to really appreciate the really difficult things. And believe me, there are some really tough things to do in there that even I haven't scratched the surface of yet. Now this issue is for people who have asthma. That's what I have, and this might not apply to everyone, but I thought this was a pretty interesting thing to add. So about 25 to 30 pounds in, around the time I was taking a blood test, and I had some really bad numbers for my adrenal glands. I was supposed to get a number, I don't know the measurement, but the number is supposed to be something like 20. And my number was less than 1. And so the asthma medication is a steroid, and so that was the culprit. I was taking a very high dosage, as I should have been at the time when I was much, much heavier, but once I dropped about 25, 30 pounds, it was obviously too much. And so it had this negative effect on my body, and it had all kinds of weird issues to go with that. So I took the medication, instead of taking it twice a day, which I was supposed to, I went down once a day. And about 4 to 5 days after that, I took another blood test, and my number went from, I think it was like 0.3 to 3. Still very, very low, but in a few days, that kind of progress with cutting the medication down to once a day, that was already a sign of change. And the following weeks, suddenly, I felt much better, much more energetic. I felt like I was a teenager again. I couldn't believe what I was going through. And all because of the medication. So with that, I've now lost even more weight. I've lost twice as much now, and I've taken a lower dosage, so that hormonal energetic feeling has leveled off. But I just can't believe, like, something like asthma medication, you have to take the right dosage or you're going to have negative consequences with weird side effects on your body, because yeah, it is a steroid. And in a perfect world, I wouldn't want to take any asthma medication at all, but I don't know if that's likely. But what I really want to have is, at least when I'm in the best shape I can get, to have the lowest dosage of asthma medication, and I don't want to have any more than that. Yeah, very interesting one. I'm curious to know if anyone else has experienced that, because it is a strange, very strange one, and it's something that you need to keep alert on. So these are all things that I have learned and observed over time. Now there is some basic things that I think everyone has noticed. You know, they feel like they're more energetic, their heart's doing better, they feel stronger, more flexible too. But I think these are some things out of my observations that might stick out a little bit, because yeah, there are some things I expect will happen, but there's also a lot of things I didn't know what I needed to do, what changed, what things I didn't notice. So that's kind of what this list is about. So yeah, these are some of the things I've learned along the way. Obviously, some people's experience vary. There's probably some things they have experienced that I haven't. And even though that I've made all this progress, I'm not done yet. With my appearance, of course, I am better than I've ever been. I could tell that my upper body is much more broad than it's probably ever been. I now want to maintain that beneficial Y shape for men, but I still have some more weight to lose around the waist. But once that's gone, I know that's where I want to be for the rest of my life. I know that's what I always want to look like. I know there's some things that I've gone through, that maybe some behaviors that I didn't practice very well, that led me to being unhealthy, that led me to having a gut. Something that's been with me, I think, my entire life. It's kind of how I was born with. That doesn't mean that's how I want to live with. But yeah, it's a lot of work, and more weight to be lost, more muscle to be gained, better endurance, better everything. And with that, I got one more PSA, of course. We are deep entrenched in summer. It's my favorite season out of the year. I want you guys to go out in nature, go out in the forest, go for a hike. The sound of birds, bugs, the wind going through the leaves, the trees. It's just a nice place to be. It's a good place to get away from the sound of civilization for a little bit, kind of clear your head, get some exercise, because I can't think of a better place to be in any given morning. It's just lovely. We need to get in touch with nature, and then you'll really appreciate it, and then that will kind of soothe your mind. We need to be in the forest. We need to have some of this in our life. It's so good. So enjoy the wilderness while you can, because before you know it, it will get dark. It will get cold. But anyway, that's all I have for now. I hope to see you guys next time.